Old man with an empty grave. Before dawn, Lao Li climbed out and sat upright at the head of the grave. He straightened his clothes and looked nervously at the intersection. Someone's coming. Lao Li hurriedly sat down. He fixed his eyes and saw that it was Lao Shu's family. Lao Shu's grandson is only 2 years old. A small group, standing obediently, which is particularly pitiful. Lao Li couldn't help but think of his little grandson Qing'an. Today is Qingming festival, my son should bring Qing'an to see him, right? Thinking like this, Lao Li couldn't help but look at the intersection. Why haven't you come yet? What if I can't catch the bus back? After he left, no one took care of the old house. If he missed the bus, where would their son sleep? After a while, the tomb sweepers came one after another. And the dead came out one after another to gather with their relatives. Only Lao Li's grave was empty. Lao Li looked at the intersection from time to time. Until the last light dissipated, the people gradually left. And the undead returned to the tomb, and he bowed his head in disappointment. Lao Li, give. Lao Shu handed Lao Li a pot of wine. Lao Li was in a depressed mood, so he took the wine and drank it in one gulp. Your son hasn't come to see you this year? Lao Shu couldn't help asking. He's busy with work. Lao Li seemed a little lacking in confidence. You can go see them. Old Shu Dao. This. You're a ghost now, you can go wherever you want. Lao Shu patted Lao Li on the shoulder. However, you have to rush back within 3 days, otherwise you can only become a lonely ghost. Yes, why didn't I think of that? Without waiting for Lao Shu to finish speaking, Lao Li patted his head, got up and left. I must rush back. Lao Shu shouted uneasily. Got it. Lao Li didn't reply. Is a little different from the ghost on TV. Lao Li can't fly the eaves and walk the wall. Nor can he teleport, he floated to the shuttle, tossing and turning, and when he arrived at his son's house. It was late at night the next day. The son's family had already slept. And Lao Li walked through the door and saw his son, whom he hadn't seen for 2 years. He looked a little haggard, it should be that the work pressure was too much. And Lao Li helped his son tuck the quilt distressedly. Half paid, Lao Li floated to Qing'an's room. Qing'an slept soundly, and he was still holding the transformers that Lao Li bought in his arms. His mouth pursed, and a drop of crystal saliva ran down the corner of his mouth. Lao Li stretched out his hand to wipe it away. And the moment his hand touched Qing'an shuddered violently. Lao Li hurriedly withdrew his hand, and secretly scolded himself for being stupid. He is a ghost now, and he has no temperature on his hand at all, how can he touch the child? Lao Li was secretly annoyed. Chen opened his eyes. And after seeing the person in front of him clearly, he excitedly shouted, Grandpa. As he spoke, he was about to throw himself into Lao Li's arms. Lao Li hurriedly took a few steps back, looking at the child's puzzled eyes. Lao Li explained distressedly, Grandpa is cold. Grandpa, I miss you so much. Chen looked at Lao Li without blinking. Lao Li's voice was a little choked. Grandpa also misses Qing'an. Grandpa will often come back to see Qing'an in the future. Grandpa counts when he talks. As he spoke, Chen raised his little thumb. Good. Worried that it would freeze until Qing'an. And afraid that the child would be disappointed. Lao Li reluctantly nodded Qing'an's little thumb. Qing'an still shivered. He crawled into the quilt, took out the hot water bottle, and handed it to Lao Li. Grandpa, it's not cold to hold this. Looking at the child's clear eyes, Lao Li suddenly felt warm in his heart. The blood in his body seemed to start flowing again. And the corners of his eyes were a little wet. He reached out and wiped them. Lao Li picked up the storybook on the side as usual and read it to the children. The moonlight was shining through the small window. And an old man was telling a story to his little grandson. Everything was so beautiful and warm. The next day, Chinkin looked a little tired. Lao Li thought that the child was not sleeping enough. And he was distressed, and secretly blamed himself for not waking the child up last night. This evening, he was building blocks with Chinkin, and was about to hand a block to Chinkin. But he was surprised to see his hand through the block. He was worried about frightening the child. So he hurriedly looked at Chinkin and found that Chinkin had fallen asleep. Lao Li didn't doubt him, but he didn't sleep well last night. And besides, children are easy to fall asleep. The son and daughter-in-law got off work one after another, and the son carried the sleeping Chinkin back to the house. Lao Li looked at his more and more transparent hands, and he knew that if he didn't go back to the cemetery, he might never be able to go back and eventually become an ethereal, lonely ghost. Lao Li floated to the street and finally waited for the last train. Along the way, seeing that his body was becoming more and more empty, he was anxious. Without waiting for the shuttle bus to stop, Lao Li hurriedly floated out. His soul trembled, and he desperately floated towards the mountain. He faintly felt the rejection of him by the cemetery, and an invisible force kept pushing him out. Lao Li was desperate. Obviously he had not completely become a lonely ghost, and he was still a few seconds away from the 3-day deadline. Why? At this time, a hand reached out from the graveyard, grabbed Lao Li's collar, and pulled him in suddenly. Without waiting for Lao Li to react, the hand slapped Lao Li's head fiercely. "Are you crazy?" Lao Li looked at it. It was Lao Shu. Lao Shu was very angry, and when he saw that Lao Li was fine, he went back to the grave and refused to pay attention to Lao Li. Lao Li knew that he was wrong, squatted quietly on the grave, and did not speak. "Farewell today. I don't know when I will see my child again." Unexpectedly, within a few days, his son's family actually came to Lao Li's grave. Lao Li was overjoyed and hurriedly climbed out. The daughter-in-law hugged Chinkin, knelt in front of the grave and cried and scolded. "If you want my life, you can take it. Why do you do it to the child?" The son's face was full of grief. "Dad, I didn't expect you to be so ruthless. Do you want to take Chinkin to accompany you?" As soon as the daughter-in-law heard that, she stood up and pointed to the tombstone and scolded. "If you hurt my son again, don't blame me for asking the Taoist priest to make your soul scatter." Lao Li was stunned, only to see Chinkin's face pale, and cold sweat on his forehead, when he saw Lao Li. His eyes lit up, and he whispered in his mouth, "Grandpa, Grandpa." Lao Li remembered that he touched Chinkin that night, and he was full of regret for a while. What is wrong with the child? He simply scatters his soul. The daughter-in-law was still screaming and scolding, but Chinkin quietly walked to the grave. The daughter-in-law was shocked, and was about to take the child back, only to see Chinkin pull out a weed in front of the grave and say, "Mom, there is a lot of grass in this place where Grandpa lives, and the places where other grandparents live are so clean." Seeing this, the son and daughter-in-law opened their mouths, but they couldn't speak. Chinkin still didn't have an accident in the end, and since then, his son's family has come to visit Lao Li every Qingming festival.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and put notification on to watch more videos. Please comment and let me know if you were in the situation, what would you do?